What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Nick. I'm the editor-in-chief for Techno Warriors TV, and welcome to another spooky paranormal interview. Holy crap, do we have something cool for you today? I should say cool. Are you ready to crap your pants? Because we have a demonologist on the show for you guys today. We have Avenue. Now, please note that he is requested to use this alias due to privacy and safety reasons. But this guy has been doing demonology for over 10 years. And he's also an exorcist. He's done around 15 of them so far, and it's it's nothing like we've seen with Sal DeVang's interview. You should totally check that out. That puppy has almost 5,000 views. But he has had, during his, and you'll see this in another interview, it'll be the Exorcist interview of Avenue. Now, during that, he's actually seen levitation and that kind of thing, which is really, really spooky. It's like the Exorcist type of crap. But today's video is we're going to talk about him, about what he's done as a demonologist, and what demonology is, and kind of, the bits and ends of ghosts and demons. So, without further ado, welcome to the show, and congratulations on being the first demonologist on our show. We have a demonologist, isn't that crazy? Are you ready for some spooky, scary? I'm gonna shut my trap and you take it away.
I appreciate it. Um, thanks for having me today.
Oh, you're
I
so
really
welcome.
appreciate it.
And before I actually continue, I'd like to give a big fan shout out to Riker and Ezra. Thank you so much for your support. Without further ado, let's get into the spooky stuff.
Um, so essentially what I call demonic activity, it really encompasses a lot of other activity, right? Even some psychological activity, paranormal, uh, ghosts, aliens, just a whole bunch of other stuff. It's all kind of summarized, at least for me, as demonic activity. Um, Now, in order to get a kind of basis of what exactly all of this is, right? How in this case ghosts are connected to aliens? How are demons connected to crop circles, right? It it doesn't initially seem like a whole heck of a lot. So there's a couple of foundational pieces of knowledge that are required in order to actually understand this. I've spent the greater part of a decade studying all of this. I've studied the science behind it. I've studied um, math, physics, theology, a whole slew of things. I've applied concepts. I've applied scholarly articles. I've come together, and what I have is now a thorough education in dimensional physics.
And
So,
so what
go ahead.
ties in? So what ties into like demonology and stuff? Like what have you like with ghosts and spirits? Like what type of activity you know can you see? Like what have you seen basically? Um, like in demonology, have you like what kind of demonic encounters have you seen?
So, as far as demonology goes, as per the name implies, it's the study of demons and the works of demons and the influence of demons, things like that. Um, Demons, at a most basic and fundamental sense, are just, I suppose the Bible puts it best as unclean or impure spirits. However, the main idea that especially everyone gets is that it's something that's there to hurt you, right? Something to cause harm. As far as what demonology specifically has brought me towards, it's things like possession, things like mental illnesses, um, both of which I've seen on multiple occasions. Things like injuries, things like personal, just great afflictions. Um, from there, there's also the more ghostly type of demonic activity where you can see things like shadow people. You can see things like what I would consider Bigfoot. You could see um, light spheres. Some people have almost premonitions or visions of what would be angelic figures. Things like this is a pretty popular one here, the Hat Man, for those who tend to do a lot of drugs. Um, and there are other things like the sleep paralysis demons, things like that. So all in all, while I'm not going to say everything I just listed is directly demonic activity, that's kind of what the whole study of demonology is. It's not just demons; it's the study of where demons come from, the spirit realm. And I'll tend to use the word spirit realm and spirit worlds interchangeably. Where it comes from is more of just a dimensional understanding of how physics work, how these entities work, and going from there.
What have you seen in like demonic possession?
So, demonic possessions normally take the form of just illnesses and afflictions. So, you don't normally know that someone's possessed. You just assume that they're sick or that there's something going on, right? Something a little off about them, or it could be something as innocuous as, yeah, I've got a chronic cough,
Uh huh.
right? Or yeah, I've got bipolar, or a
Or
good one here, and
schizophrenia.
this schizophrenia is it's actually a collection of symptoms, but yes, absolutely, that's a very common one. The story that I'll be talking about later is one of the in a later interview. That one manifested as voices, so it would be considered dissociative identity disorder, where someone ended up hearing voices in their heads, and just assumed like, hey, it's and anyone else who would listen would just think, hey, you know what, they're a little emotionally unstable, maybe they've got some mental illnesses, but there's nothing wrong with it. What really starts to strike you with any actual demonic encounter is, I guess, the first and easiest. They hate the Bible. They absolutely despise the Word of God. They hate mankind. They hate women. They want people to suffer and hurt, and they despise the Word of God. That is, as I'll explain in the story, it's actually one of the best and easiest ways to determine if someone is demon possessed. If you have something that's um, that you might suspect is demon possessed,
Mm-hmm.
um, start reading out scripture. And depending on the demons, if they're more powerful, they may be a little more resistant to it. However, it angers every single one of them. You can just start reading out the Bible, right? Reading out the Word of God. Um, they are absolutely infuriated with it, and they hate it. And so what you end up finding is, while demons present themselves as illnesses, normally the instant you either start to try and catch on or start to bring God into the mix, that's when you start seeing signs, symptoms, things like that. Um,
So you'll get the levitation, you'll get the snarling, the growling,
Voices, right?
voices, and some
Just
demons
sheer unbridled rage, yeah.
and like some demons can change their voice. And we actually did an interview with Sal Veng, the Exorcist interview with Sal Veng. Big shout out to him for being on the show, for coming on the show. In his interview, which you can click on the little thing, his and I'll even put it down in the description. His interview features actual demonic possession and even an exorcism, a portion of an exorcism. Some people like to say deliverance, some people like to say exorcism. It's mainly the same thing. But the guy in the video changed his voice to like I mean, he was evil, like villain, like it was insane. Very spooky. Um, and it's recommended to wear adult dependent diapers when viewing that video because of how scary it is. Um, it's in the demonic world can be very spooky. Also, if you ever heard of Palmer Court in Salt Lake City, that's a very haunted place. Fear Factory Salt Lake is another haunted location. But if you have a lot of negative activity at a location, can it be influenced and actually become haunted by demons?
So the short answer to your question is absolutely. Any location can just become haunted. As I would call things like ghosts and paranormal activities, poltergeists, things like that. All that stuff tends to be demonic activity. And I can explain why at a later point as well. Um, but what you end up having is anywhere where there, say by chance, isn't God, or God isn't fully implemented, or there is someone who is vulnerable. Demons 99% of the time are invited in, even if unintentionally, they are invited in for the sake of possession or for the sake of influence. Um, Now, while, for example, I'm Christian, um, Christians are immune to being possessed, but they're not immune to being influenced, right? Whispered to, slapped around, scratched, things like that. You can still see things, obviously. Just being a Christian only stops you from being possessed. From there, if you do experience any kind of demonic activity, it's really just demons as free range. So mostly what you end up having as far as a say a perfectly normal house, no hauntings whatsoever, then becoming haunted is either a tragic death or someone is influenced by demons. Now, in regards to the tragic death, what you then end up incurring is a demon will then try and convince individuals that there is, in fact, life after death by maintaining that spirit, right?
Uh
And
huh.
so now comes the idea of, hey, if you die especially tragically, you might end up sticking around, not being able to pass on to the great beyond, or hey, I saw my dead uncle in his house while I was sleeping in his bed or something. um and that's one that I actually hear a lot is dead family relatives that appear either in their household or around their stuff. And what this is a lot of intents to try and make you believe, hey, there is in fact life after death. You don't actually go to heaven or hell. You actually just sit around and wander, and you can make yourself known, and you can smile and interact with your loved ones, and all of this. That is one aspect of it. And so you can have death surrounding something, you can have trauma surrounding something. That stuff can be a good outlet for demons to then try and influence people, right? That's their goal, right? Be all end all. They're trying to pull people from God.
And then
This,
base,
go ahead.
yeah. So basically, when what's the most scary? Like, you ever seen those type of demons that will throw stuff around? They'll shout at you from the unknown saying "Get out" or
Yes.
other spooky stuff, and it's almost like what you've seen in video games or movies. I mean, it's and the crazy thing was, I was and some demons can actually make stuff levitate. You actually had an experience with that, and make sure to stay tuned for the Exorcist interview of Avenue, because he will talk about what some of the stuff he's encountered during deliverance, and it's pretty dang spooky. Now it's nothing like you know, I mean it's still pretty spooky, but they're real. Now, can people I've seen people snarl and stuff or foam at the mouth, or they'll yeah, it's pretty crazy because I'm outside a lot, right?
Yep.
Hanging around in the streets and stuff, and and it's like I've witnessed demonic possession. It's pretty dang spooky.
Yes. What you see in those cases, right? As far as if you were to take a human and put them in a vacuum and you were to try and distill them into their various aspects, what you effectively have are three aspects. You have your body, you have your mind or your conscious, and then you have your spirit. Now, all three influence the others, right? If you get hungry, then it's going to influence your conscious. You're going to want to eat. You're going to be like, you know what? You're not going to sit here and just randomly decide, you know what? I'm going to ignore my body. I'm just not going to be hungry for a while. No, you get hungry. You start to want food, things like that. Your brain will naturally release chemicals in direct response to your body, things like that. But you also have the spiritual aspect. And the spirit is also intrinsically tied with your mind and your body. Now, where these demons, I don't want to say hang out, but where these demons reside is in the spirit world, in the spirit realm. That also happens to be where your spirit is, and you get influenced by them, right? They can affect your spirit, they can affect your body, they can affect they can't physically change your mind, but they can whisper, they can influence, they can suggest things. And that's all done mainly regardless of possession. Most of that tends to happen just on the spiritual aspect of things. If you walk into a building that is completely just crowded with demonic activity, chances are your spirit is going to be smothered. It's going to be whispered to. It's going to be influenced, let alone the fact that your body might start to experience things like scratches, marks, shoves, a cold breath, things like that. Now, as far as the snarling goes, as far as actual possession, right? You know, there's clearly something that's inhuman within someone. What you then see is your spirit is an actual entity that exists in this world. What's actually just a higher dimension, a reflection of I don't think reflection is the best word quite yet, but it's essentially a summation of the physical world, coalesced into a spirit realm. What you have is your own spirit is then, uh, well, the demon takes over the spirit, I guess. It imposes itself directly onto the spirit. You've either put yourself into a position to allow it, or you have directly asked it. Now, your spirit, as per the definition of physics, has infinite space in it. So you could technically fit infinite demons inside of your own spirit. This is where
Like a
you get
legion.
people with multiple. Correct. Right. So, like Legion had, as per the Bible story, something like 2,000 demons were inside of one particular man. An actual demonic possession is not a demon inside the body of someone. It is a demon that resides within the soul of someone and can then force the soul's influence on the body, and sometimes the mind as well. However, mostly what you experience when you're talking with people who have been possessed is while they're possessed, they're kind of trapped. They're kind of put down. Like their mind is conscious. They're aware of what they're doing, why they're doing it, what's happening. They just don't actually have proper control. And they start to lose control of things like emotions as well. So all they really have is this sense of what I'm doing is right, what I'm doing is wrong, what I'm doing is aggressive, what I'm doing is kind, things like that. And that's all brought on by the the demon in taking the spirit will then sort of force control onto your body and then cause your body to do things, cause you to act aggressively, things like that. It can also, for example, like when a demon will try and speak through a human, it will force the vocal cords to try and vocalize its words that it's trying to spew. This never comes out as sounding human. Um, some demons are also good enough to be able to manifest their voice from within a human. So sometimes you end up with human sounding demon, where a demon will try and speak through the vocal cords, right? You know, say what I want you to say, but because of both the resistance and perhaps the power of the demon, because demons have different, I don't want to say power levels like a cartoon, but some of them clearly have far more influence than others. As per the ranking of angels, we can get over that later.
And so
Um,
basically, you have some demons like Jezebel, Leviathan, Lilith, and you got Quetzalcoatl. Uh, Bob Larson, who's a world-renowned exorcist, he is done. He is. He says Jezebel's the number one spirit that he deals with. Have you heard of Jezebel?
if I recall correctly, when it comes to an individual like you're referencing Bob Larson, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So when it comes to an individual like Bob Larson, there are kinds of demons due to the nature of angels and thus fallen angels, which are demons. Angels tend to embody certain aspects of reality. So you have things like, in this case, demons of lust, demons of hatred, demons of anger, demons of leadership. Someone who's possessed by a demon of leadership will tend to lead a group off a cliff, right? What you have are various kinds of demons or demons that specialize in a particular kind of influence or embody a particular kind of influence. And then these are given names as per their biblical reference. You'll have to remind me what the names mean because I'm terrible, absolutely awful at names in particular, but I think Lilith was hatred. If I recall, Jezebel was
Jezebel,
lust.
yeah. So Jezebel and Lilith are pretty much the same, um, because like, I'm a demonologist. I'm not as smart as Bob Larson or Salad, but they're both together. I mean, if you have Lilith in someone, you're gonna get Jezebel. A lot of a lot of and of course a lot of you'll get a lot of you know bad stuff that happens. A lot of abuse can lead to Jezebel. It can lead to Leviathan. It can lead to Lucifer. It can lead to a whole bunch of other demons. Is seen in some of Bob Larson's stuff, and he does live exorcisms too. I mean, it's pretty insane, and I hope to get him on our show because that would be another huge person.
I think that'd be good for you, yeah.
And thank you so much for coming under our show. It's awesome. Also, I'd like to give a Discord shout out. The Discord, if you guys have heard of Discord, it's a chat app and it's really easy to join. But a Discord server I'd recommend is called Geeks and Orbs, or let's see, um,
Geeks and
Ge-
God.
Geeks and God Bible Community. It's a really awesome community. They talk a lot about about the Bible and stuff, but they also talk about paranormal stuff, extraterrestrial stuff sometimes, and it's really cool because if you're into that stuff, you can talk about demons and stuff, and you get to see the inner workings of it. So that's really cool. So be sure to check out Geeks and God Bible Community, and I'll link that in the description of the video. So, ladies and gentlemen, I do you have anything else you want to talk about? I mean, like some of the other experiences that you've had, or do you want to do that in the Exorcist interview?
So the nature of demons is that they are fallen angels. Just as much as the world itself was corrupted to come sin, as Satan rebelled against God, a lot of the angels naturally did as well. The nature of angels is to be reflections of aspects and forces on earth, things like love, lust, gravity, the concept of death, the concept of home. You hear the Bible talk a lot about like the spirit of a nation, things like that. Um, Demons are reflections then of negative aspects. And what you end up having is those demons do specialize in things. And just as much as they hold a hatred for gods, they do hold a hatred for humans in the that are designed in the image of God. I will recommend, um, much to the contrary, I suppose, of a lot of other recommendations. Obviously, if you're very excited about this stuff, my recommendation is to get a lot of information on it. But whenever possible, don't throw yourself into a position where you may become vulnerable by one of these things. Um, this stuff is awful, and you can unknowingly invite a demon to possess you. You can, even as a guarded, protected Christian of a really established church, right? You can still be affected by demons. You can still be whispered to. You still have your own fights to fight. You can still be scratched. You can still be picked up. Do not go unguarded. If you're looking to try and explore some of this stuff as far as demonic activity and paranormal activity, I think it's Ephesians. Let's see if I have it here in the Bible. Ephesians 6:11 through 18. It goes over what's called the armor of God. The armor of God is a spiritual armor. It is what will actually protect you. Um, as long as you, I suppose, don the armor, then you can go into a situation a bit unfazed by the demonic activity there. Most importantly, I would recommend arming yourself with knowledge, right? Next channel here is a phenomenal channel to learn about a lot of this stuff, to see what's going on. I'm going to recommend going a little deeper, though, and doing personal knowledge into the Bible. Understand exactly what these spirits are, what they want, why they hate, and going from there. Because if you're in a position where you're either not protected, not a Christian, or you don't have enough information, you will either find yourself possessed by a demon, abused by a demon, or both,
And
in whatever manner that takes.
and seriously, guys, trust Avenue on this. He knows what he's doing. So a lot of you, who like to go out to abandoned places and stuff, and be careful, because you don't know if something could just go up and possess you. You really want to be protected. So, yeah, I mean, it's really awesome. Avenue, thank you so much for coming on to Techno Warriors TV and talking about this. This is actually you're the first demonologist we've had on the show. And, I've been wanting, like, that to happen for a while. I'm like, someone who really knows their stuff. And of course, we've had the Exorcist, Sal Vang, awesome guy. We're gonna get Bob Larson on here as well too in the future. It is insane how much stuff is coming down the pipeline. Now, ladies and gentlemen, be sure you check out the Geeks in God Bible Community, the Geeks in God Bible Community on Discord, and that's where you can go and say hi to Avenue, ask him questions and everything, and it's a really cool channel. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like this video, you know what to do. You hit that like button if you like this video. You hit that dislike button if you did not like this video. And if you adored this video, all you have to do is strangle that subscribe button, slap that like button in the face, and pow, right in the kisser.